Hi, welcome to the Scent Advocate. Tonight we're talking about fragrances from my collection, about 6, that are cozy enough for a cool evening, but not heavy enough for the winter, not bright enough for the summer. Perfect spring evening fragrance when you're feeling a little chill in the air like we've got here in upstate New York tonight. But you don't want to be too heavy, right? So a lighter take on cozy fragrances, perfect for the spring. Grab yourself a beverage tonight. I am wound down for the evening and I've got myself some water. So grab that beverage, take a swig, and let's jump right in. All right, tonight's first fragrance is Ambre Narguile by Hermes. Let me do this again. It worked so well last night. There we go. Yay. All right. This fragrance is an EDT. It is from the Hermescence line. It is beautiful. So this EDT is 100 ml. It was released in 2004. It goes for about $350, but it is 100 ml. The nose behind it is Jean-Claude Elena. The notes are caramel, tonka, cinnamon, vanilla, honey, rum, benzoin, tobacco, labdanum, sesame, on and on. The feeling from this is cinnamon, but not too heavy. It's cinnamon, amber, orchid, and tobacco leaf. There's a freshness, though, that accompanies those heavier notes. So the concentration kind of lends itself to a lighter take on this, it being an EDT. There's also a coolness in here. Very slight. It's not mint. If I had to guess, it might be an ever so slight hint of camphor, which really plays off of the cinnamon. It's an undetectable note. It's just an effect or impact that lightens up the heavier notes, the cinnamon, amber, and tobacco, because it's a wet tobacco. And if it's a wet tobacco leaf, like a green tobacco, and it just lends itself to a perfect spring evening fragrance that gives you something like a light sweater, might feel like a light cashmere sweater on a chilly spring evening when you're out enjoying nature. You know, for me, I've got a couple of decks on the house, and one in particular faces some heavy wooded areas of our property, and it's just, this would be the fragrance I'd wear tonight if it weren't a little bit sprinkly out and I was out in a nice, cozy, warm sweater in the spring. This would definitely be the fragrance. I've got something on my nose from smelling this. I don't know if it's a piece of lint. Sorry about that. Gorgeous stuff. Perfect for spring. Ambre Narguile from Hermes. Moving on, we've got Ombre and Tobacco by Parfums de Nicolai. Okay, there we go again. This fragrance is, where are we? This is a 30 ml. It goes for about $115. It's an EDP, and it is a 2013 release. So the notes in this are heavier herbals and quite a bit of heavy wood. So we've got oud, cedar. In addition to that, there's amber, sandalwood, saffron, cinnamon, but there's also castoreum in here. What does that translate to? Well, it gives it something of an animalic note that plays off the oud, but the the combination gives it an earthiness. It's not an animalic. It's just a very natural, earthy quality. It's not petrichor, but it's leaning in that direction. And that earthiness by no means should be considered profane. It's definitely not there. The herbals give it a lift, you know, that lavender and the sage and the thyme just lighten it up with that greenness, that slightly bitter greenness, which of course is offset by the styrac, amber, vanilla, tonka. And so it's really just this lovely combination of notes that give rise to something very singular. I've not smelled anything like this. Very, very unique. If I had to say, well, you know, if you like amber oud, you'd also like this fragrance, or if you like this fragrance, you'd like amber oud. I can't think of anything. At the same time, all of this is going on. It's light. It's there. It's got projection. It's got terrific longevity, but it's not imposing. It's not too heavy. It's perfect for the spring on a chilly evening or a chilly day. This is perfect either way. I'd wear this more in the evening. Let me just say this, along with this, are perfectly unisex. And again, you know, maybe just like sweater weather, but spring, right? Whenever we think of sweater weather, we tend to think of, you know, the fall, but there's sweater weather in the spring too, and this would be perfect. This is also very much a 3-season fragrance. So if you're looking for a lot of flexibility with your fragrances, any of these, well, either of these, I should say, so far are 3 seasons. So it's going to be winter, spring, and fall. Beautiful stuff. What really sets this off is that earthy quality. If you haven't tried this, you really should. It's very interesting stuff. Ambre Oud by Parfums de Nicolai. All right, moving on, we've got... Okay, I've been meaning to talk about this one for a while. This is Federico Cantelli's Ambra et Tobacco. There we go. Yay. All right. So this is an EDP. It is a 50 ml. It goes for about $70. And it's a 2024 release. Orange, aloe vera, amber, tobacco, tonka. You seeing a theme here with the amber and tobacco for these kinds of fragrances. Tonka, cinnamon, cedar, musk, and vanilla. So this is a wet, sweet pipe tobacco with a hint of mint going on, which I think really sets it off. And gives it some levity. It's a perfect gentleman's fragrance. I do think this leans a little masculine. Just a little bit. It's perfect for a spring morning. Very, like I said, gentlemanly, very clean, fresh, leaning on the formal side. You know, you think of someone going to religious services on the weekend. This would be a perfect fragrance for that in the cooler days of spring. Very unimposing, but fantastic longevity. Projection is modest, but highly, highly underrated. I really haven't heard much about this fragrance, and I think it is so versatile, so beautiful. Ambre et Tobacco by Federico Cantelli. All right. Moving on, we've got a Diptyque. Can you guess which one? Get my tester here. All right. This is Eau Moheli. There we go. Okay. This is an EDT. And you can tell, I think, the EDTs from the EDPs because the EDPs are darker bottles and they're slightly smaller. You can see there. The EDTs, though, are when it's a heavier fragrance, wonderful for spring, and this is a perfect example. So this is a 2013 release. It's 100 ml, and it goes for about $195. The nose behind this is Olivier Peuchot. This is ylang ylang, pink pepper, ginger, vetiver, benzoin, patchouli, and incense. But what an amazing fragrance. This has a more of a daytime, chilly spring daytime feel to it. You know, the ylang ylang, the patchouli, the incense, and benzoin could make this a little too heavy, except for the pink pepper and the ginger in here, giving it that lift. It also makes me think of summertime in a cooler geography. So like if I were in maybe Scotland or northern Canada, or I guess in northern Canada, I mean like Vancouver, something like that, or my fantasy vacation spot, Iceland. I've always wanted to go. Or maybe you are at Tierra del Fuego at the very tip of South America in the summer, and you wanted to smell amazing. This would be your scent. Absolutely stunning. There's a very slight hint of clean kind of soap in here, and I'm trying to think of what sets it. I think it's the ginger, believe it or not. The ginger combined with the incense together give me a very clean, cozy but clean accord. Stunning stuff. Again, very unique to me. I haven't smelled anything quite like this among my fragrances, and that is really something that I strive for when I buy a fragrance. I've mentioned it before. If there's anything in my collection that is too similar to something I've already got, I'm very disappointed. It hasn't happened often, but when it has, it's just been really bad. I hate that. I think it's because, you know, this is my hard-earned money that I spend on fragrance. No one is giving me any PR or anything like that. These are gifts from family or something I buy myself. And, you know, that's kind of part of what I have to show for my labor, my time away from my family. So I like to make sure that what I have in my collection is really carefully curated. And I love it when the scent is unique or singular. And this is it, Eau Moheli by Diptyque. Next, last, but certainly not least, is one I don't hear nearly enough about. It is Queen of Silk by Creed. Yes, beautiful stuff. To me, this is rice. Rice and rice. So this is a 30 ml EDP. It is about $310. Yep, and it's a 2024 release. The notes are osmanthus, magnolia, saffron, tuberose, passion fruit, incense, myrrh, cedar, musk, vanilla. But again, rice, rice, and rice with some osmanthus, oud, myrrh, and the passion fruit. I wouldn't have guessed passion fruit. It is clear there's a fruit in here. A tropical fruit. In fact, if I didn't know better, I would also guess ylang ylang. But that isn't among the notes. Neither is rice, incidentally, but I get a ton of rice and ylang ylang in here. And what can I tell you? I mean, that's just what I pick up. Do you have you smelled this? And if you have, are you getting the same sort of feel? This takes me to what I imagine Sumatra or Java would be like, you know, one of those incredibly perfect Indonesian beaches where, you know, it's unspoiled, dark from heavy foliage. And yet there's a brightness to the fragrance in the air. Very natural, very innocent, very perfect, and exceptionally tropical. but not in a cliche kind of way. It's its own thing, and very, to me, again, you know, pretty unique. I love rice fragrances. I count this among them, but this one is special. Again, you know, really yellow waxy florals, banana leaf too, and cooked rice. Stunning stuff. I love this. It gives me a warm, cozy feel, but not heavy enough for winter. It's brightness from that ylang ylang, which is something I'm perceiving. It's not among the notes again. Gives it a levity, a lift, a brightness to the heaviness of the cooked rice that makes it spring-like for me. And it just takes me away, like I said, to a South Pacific, you know, perfect beach experience and tropical island getaway. And this is it right here. Queen of Silk by Creed. All right, so what do you think of tonight's lineup? Do you ever get the feeling you want to wear something a little bit cozier, maybe not as soft and floral in the spring? I know I love the lighter fragrances in the spring, especially after the heavier ones I tend to wear in the winter, but once in a while, on a night like tonight, yeah, I want to wrap myself up in something cozy, and I want a fragrance to go with it. And these are it. They're not too heavy, just perfect. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you aren't yet a subscriber, please consider subscribing. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.